I'm Nan McKay, and I would like to introduce you today to Paul Bradley. Paul is the founding president of ROC USA, a nonprofit social venture that makes resident ownership of manufactured, or sometimes called mobile, home communities viable and successful nationwide. ROC USA operates through a network of currently 10 nonprofit technical assistance providers and a subsidiary community developed financial institution, ROC USA Capital. Network affiliates have helped resident-controlled co-ops acquire 264 communities and preserve 18,000 affordable homes in 18 states. ROC USA Capital has delivered more than $250 million in financing since 2009. Paul was selected as an Ashoka Fellow, named Social Innovator of the Year, and honored with the Jerry Moorhees Memorial Award by the National Association of Housing Cooperatives. And in 2018 was inducted in the Cooperative Hall of Fame. He serves on the National Cooperative Business Association Board of Directors. So welcome, Paul Bradley.
Thank you, Nan. It's great to be here.
Paul, as the founder and president of ROC, what is the history of its evolution?
Great. Well, this takes us back to 1984 in a small 13-home mobile home park in Meredith, New Hampshire, where an elderly couple was looking to sell the property, and the homeowners there were really concerned that the community would be closed down for condo development. So they banded together and they bought it as a cooperative. They borrowed the money from a brand new community loan fund started in Concord, New Hampshire, called the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. The loan fund made its first loan to this Meredith Center cooperative. In fact, they borrowed the money the morning of in June, and from the Sisters of Mercy, which is a Catholic order of nuns. And that afternoon, they loaned the co-op $38,000 to buy the 13-home mobile home park. That one transaction led to such press in the state that the founding president of the loan fund, Julie Eads, began getting phone calls from homeowners around the state saying, our community just sold, the rents went up. There's effluent in my backyard, the operator won't fix it. The community's being closed down, can we buy it? And it opened a whole world, a sort of a hidden world of what it's like to own a home in some manufactured or mobile home communities. So I came on in 1988. I began working with these co-ops, and truly, Nan, I've been inspired every day since to see low-income people join together in community to own and manage their communities as affordable and as engaged communities is just deeply inspiring. And they've been successful. All 264 communities we've ever helped have retained their properties. None has resold, filed for bankruptcy, or any of that. So by 2008, it was clear there was an opportunity to scale this around the country. We had achieved about 22% market share in New Hampshire. We had discernible economic impact in those communities that we've helped. And there was demand from around the country. So I did the business planning, secured the financing, and we launched ROC USA in May of 2008.
So is that the ROC USA network, or is that something else?
ROC USA is the parent, and we have two subsidiaries, ROC USA Network, what you would think of as the training and development services division. And that is actually a network of affiliated nonprofits that do pre and post-purchase training, technical assistance, and coaching around this model of ownership. And then we have a second subsidiary called ROC USA Capital, as you mentioned, a community development financial institution where we borrow money and raise equity in order to relend to these low-income communities and communities of color.
Did you do the financial because you kind of felt you needed that in order to make the whole thing work together, or why did you start that arm of it?
Started simultaneously. Resident ownership requires three things. Obviously, training and technical assistance to help groups get formed and to acquire their communities. Financing, because you've got to show up in the marketplace with readily available capital that's customized to this particular ownership model, and is everything that the homeowners need in terms of financing. And last, or it's actually first, the third ingredient to resident ownership is opportunity. So, where community operators are educated around resident ownership and have an interest in selling to the homeowners, then we come in with technical assistance and financing and make that possible for the homeowners.
How does all that get started with the residents? Do they start talking to each other and say, would you be interested in this? Or does the owner approach them? Or how does it usually work?
Great question. It comes in a whole variety of ways, but primarily we are focused on building the brand within the industry so that we can reach community operators before they decide on an exit to a corporation or to another investor. We want to build relationships with them and have them see over time the effectiveness and efficiency in selling to the homeowners through the ROC USA system. And, consolidation is alive and well in the manufactured home community business. It's been, the first REIT came into the MHC business in the early 90s. So consolidation is, here as it is in most US industries. But there are operators, traditional local owners who have deep personal relationships with homeowners, and they would rather sell to the homeowners if there's an effective and efficient way of doing it. And so that's what we deliver. And we're finding more and more mom and pop operators is what they're called. But we're finding more and more operators that are very happy to sell to the homeowners. And there's a couple of videos on our website, interviews with operators. They actually find it easier transacting with the co-ops than they do with some of their other experiences selling to investors. So that's interesting.
Does it include a lot of people who maybe bought the mobile home park early on and now are getting into their retirement years? Or what do you find is a typical owner that now wants to explore this new way of doing it?
Yeah, I mean, this is an exit strategy for a lot of long-term owners. Again, have relationship. What I generally find is the deeper relationship the operator has with homeowners, the more interested they are in selling. The closer they live or their proximity to the community, the more likely they are to have relationships. But we also have investors from across the country, that might own a property many states away, that will sell to the homeowners. They like the model. We've done 3 transactions with the very well-known Frank Rolfe of Mobile Home University. And, Frank says, we just closed on a property in Austin, Texas with Frank and a group of Hispanic homeowners. And Frank said it was a win-win-win. He felt it was a fair transaction for him. And it was a win for the homeowners. They worked for 5 years to position themselves. They begged for us to come to Texas to help them with their transaction. It took us some time to get there, mind you. That's not typical. We don't usually entertain transactions outside of our service area. But the city of Austin, in that case, was highly motivated to preserve that community and ended up financing a second mortgage for $2.5 million, just to give you an indication of their commitment to it. So everyone was very eager for us to get there and help make that happen.
So tell me what some of the differences are and also the benefits between a commercially controlled manufactured home park and then one that is resident owned. Yeah,
so manufactured housing in communities is naturally occurring, affordable housing. It's largely unsubsidized. So, this is for many small towns and cities, It's the largest stock of affordable housing in a lot of places. And it's operated, as I said, without subsidy. And that's great. And there are a lot of community operators that provide affordable home ownership opportunities for low-income people. And thank goodness for that. We're there when those owners are ready to sell to help the homeowners gain security. But I take nothing away from the good work of some operators. Of course, there are some operators that take advantage and raise rents dramatically, or don't invest in the underlying property, and I have a problem with that. The benefits, so this is naturally occurring, but at risk when the community does sell. The benefits of resident ownership are control and ownership of the land beneath people's homes. It's done on a cooperative basis, so they set up a corporation to buy the whole parcel of land, and then they have a perpetual lease with the cooperative for their home site. But what we have documented through university as well as market research that we do with Colliers, co-ops are providing below market rents after just 5 years of ownership. We've documented that in our portfolio, on average, $32 below market rent after 5 years of ownership. That and housing, that is while meeting their reserve requirements for future improvements. No one's cutting corners here to keep rents low while not investing in the property. So lower rents after 5 years. Homes in residential communities have been shown to sell for more than comparable homes in comparable commercially operated properties. We have a study from UNH, the University of New Hampshire, in 2006. Homes in co-ops were selling for 16% more per square foot than those in comparable communities, and they were selling faster. And then statistically significant results in homeowners in co-ops feeling more secure, less worried about the community selling or closing down. So, a range of economic and social benefits to owning a community as a co-op.
I'm really curious about something. I'm thinking, okay, everybody goes together and probably gets shares, in a sense, buys shares. Is that part correct?
Yeah, this is the co-op on the one member, one share per house. So you're absolutely right. Everyone can acquire, every homeowner in the community can acquire one share, which entitles them to one vote on co-op matters.
So my question is, so let's say that you have somebody that really is a problem owner now, not tenant, where you used to be able to say, well, I could evict them, I could do something else if they're on a lease, but now they are a shareholder in the park. How do people address that? Is it just going to the committee, and therefore, because the one vote there, do they say you have to go, or how do they do it?
Yeah, so I mean, these are democratic corporations. Major issues like bylaw changes and community rules changes, as a general rule, require two-third vote of the membership once the quorum is established. So, there's room for dissent while things still advance. Annual budgets are passed generally on a majority vote basis. Smaller matters, day-to-day matters, are left to the board of directors, which operates as well on a majority rule basis. So, there's room for some disagreement and debate, obviously, within a cooperative structure. We're not trying to achieve consensus on whether the bulletin board should be painted white or green. That's not necessary and wears people out. So that's it from a corporate standpoint. If someone's still members and non-members, for that matter, have an obligation to the community owner. It happens to be a community owner they have one vote in, but they have an obligation to that community owner to pay their site fees on time and to follow the community rules. And so if someone's violating those and it's serious enough, just like in an investor-owned community, it can lead to eviction. Doesn't frequently, but it can. State laws still apply in the sense that this is still a manufactured home community where someone has a lease on the land beneath their home.
Oh, that's where it comes in. Interesting.
Yeah.
Are these resident-owned communities all over the United States?
Yeah, we're in 18 states today. We just closed on our first community, a 60-home, largely Latinx community in Asheboro, North Carolina last week. I just told you the first one was in Meredith, New Hampshire, back in 1984. And so in between, you know, we've been in Texas, as I noted. There are co-ops in Oregon and Washington, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Utah, coming over to Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York, Delaware, and all of New England.
Do you feel that the manufactured housing is really going to be a major factor in the affordable housing market or search for the market?
I do, Nan. At the end of the day, you know, you've got to take cost out of the production of affordable housing. You know, the subsidy pie that funds affordable housing is relatively fixed and generally threatened. So you can move pieces around the chessboard and get new housing maybe in one place over another, but you're not expanding the amount of affordable housing that's available, and there's a dire need for it. So manufactured housing, whether it's in a cooperative, a nonprofit-owned community, or in an investor-owned community, these homes are built at about a third the cost of site-built homes. They're built in a factory, environmentally controlled. They're done in a very efficient manner. 32-gallon trash cans of debris comes as a result of building a manufactured home in a factory. You know, there's tremendous efficiencies to be achieved by factory-built housing. There's some market elements that need to be improved, so it's a more secure asset for low-income people. But nonetheless, the housing stock itself is very affordable. And if you think about mobile home parks or manufactured home communities or trailer parks in some people's, you know, lexicon, what are they? They're high density, detached, single family neighborhoods of modest size homes. From a land use approval standpoint, we need high density, detached single family homes because people like detached single family living. And we need modest size homes that are affordable. This land use approval for this housing stock is unique, and it's really important to preserve and expand because we have a lot more people that need access to affordable housing and affordable home ownership.
So it becomes more and more of a zoning issue?
The zoning plays a very big part of this. And the 70-year history of this housing stock. I mean, when I say trailer park, there are still people that have images of 1950s, 60s, and 70s trailer courts. And the challenge the industry faces, let's be clear, is some of that stock is still in our communities. Tucked in behind the billboard on Highway 125 is that little trailer park, right? Now, imagine if there was, because that land use approval is not being replaced with other community approvals, imagine if that community could be secured and transformed with new energy efficient manufactured housing. We would have a high density neighborhood of detached single family homes that are energy efficient and that provide good, secure, and affordable home ownership for low income families. I think it's a valuable asset. And we're just hamstrung, quite frankly, by a history of a housing stock that has evolved over 70 years, but you know, some of us have long memories and it gets fixed in our minds.
That's true. That is very true. Let's end by telling us the story quickly about being recognized by a talk show person.
Oh, the John Oliver show did a piece on the industry. And as John Oliver goes, you know, look, he has very biting analysis. There's no question about it. And so he did address some of the underlying issues in the industry. They're not they're not across the board issues, but there certainly are isolated cases of exactly what he highlighted. And hey, for my part and our part, they raised up ROC USA at the end as a solution, and I'm grateful for that. One can do worse than having 8.3 million people at last count see your logo as a solution. And it's led to a lot of community groups now. When we enter a community with the opportunity for them to purchase, we're seeing overwhelming support for resident ownership. We've been featured in the Financial Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. Nothing has compared to John Oliver's probably 6-second showing of ROC USA's logo might have been all it was, but nonetheless, nothing has compared to that. People recognize it, and we helped a community in Plainville, Massachusetts close this summer, 100% membership day of closing, and this was a 220 home community. So they were organizing during a pandemic. And they still produced 100% membership approvals day of closing. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, all I can say is congratulations.
Thank you.
Good again.
Thank you, Nan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.